So as we're laboring to steward the Great Commission, we want to make disciples where we're at. And as the kingdom expands in an area, God begins, we saw in Acts 13 that God mobilizes people to the gaps, to where the need is. And we see in Acts 1:8, that's how the kingdom expands: Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, ends of the earth. So we want to be faithful to engage lostness where we're at, but we also want to be mindful of the unreached and unengaged people groups that are both near us and that are around the world. And so we're going to talk about this Great Commission pipeline that we're seeing unfold that allows us to consider stewarding the Great Commission work that God's entrusting to us, that we can focus on the Great Commission task. And so in where we're at, we're noticing that we're starting with a catalyst and training that God's using to launch teams in a city. And we feel like this is an irreducible minimum that's going to last and take the gospel to a portion of the city or the city as a whole. We would boil down a team to, do they have an NPL vision for lostness that's as big as their city or as small as their oikos or their neighborhood? If they've got an NPL vision for lostness, that's a key component. And are they also willing to commit to the weekly rhythm of meeting in a 3/3 group or church and a weekly time of going out in the harvest together? And harvest time could look like prayer walking or House of Peace search or setting appointments to meet with oikos. Is just, are they meeting together for discipleship and training? Are they going out in the harvest with a vision? We'd say that's a team. Okay? And there's our orality tool there. We got a team. And as the team labors in the work and we begin to see the kingdom multiply, through the Spirit's work, as they're training broadly, we're noticing that a group of teams working together towards a vision we're calling a city coalition. And they are laboring towards the vision for that city. As you have teams that are able to train broadly in a macro strategy, which is just, sow broadly, train broadly, we're able to find more laborers and teams. That's leading to the formation of coalitions. The 3-touch training process that many of us have been using actually is leading to the formation of coalitions. And as we're seeing the kingdom multiply, we need to steward that with the coaching of leaders, people that we're going to invest 60 to 90 days a year in with coaching if we want it to be healthy and sustainable. We're also needing to equip people in how to just handle the rhythm and communication for a coalition where you've got multiple teams, multiple networks working together. And one of the things we're noticing to be very catalytic within a city is what we're calling a residency or cohorts in some places. And these are just simply in-house trainings that follow this pattern here, with just the addition of training to help raise up individuals, families, and teams that want to either plant churches or go overseas as missionaries to do the work. And so this is a movement strategy that we're seeing God use. Just want to clarify, this is a movement strategy. It's not a mobilization strategy. Mobilization is an outcome. So we want to start teams and then strengthen them. And then once we see them to the point where they are sending, the work grows to that point, we're calling this a hub. And that's a city that's seeing movement or emerging movement that is now sending teams towards the gaps, either in the same country, like if you're in the U.S., sending them to other cities in the U.S., or overseas as missionaries to the gaps there. Another distinctive of a hub is that they're set up to receive. individuals or families or teams to come into the work and learn how to do the work, and it not be real disruptive for the local work. And so here's our orality version, able to receive and mobilize teams. So this is what we're seeing in the rearview mirror of what's happening, of how we are seeing training leading to the formation of teams, city coalitions, and hubs. And it's just a means of stewarding the work. Now, as we look at the global side of things for this Great Commission pipeline, this just represents the ocean. And, if we're in America, this side of the pond would be what we're calling the home hub. Okay. And a home hub is laboring to catalyze, you have teams and churches and organizations that, as described here, are laboring to catalyze movements locally and also to launch in other cities, teams, coalitions, and hubs. All right. So they're catalytic within their own country or area, laboring towards, again, as a movement strategy. But as the work grows and the Holy Spirit moves and people are called to the nations, we want to steward that. We want to mobilize kingdom laborers as the Holy Spirit leads to the field. And we're seeing what we're calling field hubs established overseas. And this is where missionary teams are laboring towards movement, and we're able to mobilize the long-term worker as teams to these field hubs where they can serve with existing missionaries using the same strategy, the same process. In our case, it's 4 fields, and others might be using different training and strategies, and that's fine. But in our case, we're using 4 fields, but using the same strategy, same process that they're using here. Now, granted, the tools might be contextualized for different countries, and there's language and culture, but the labor here, they're working with nationals to help nationals catalyze movements. So we want to see the nationals form their own home hubs. Just abbreviate that there. Okay, and these are just hubs where we have movement happening that's led strictly by the nationals, and they are ultimately going after these unreached, unengaged people groups, as is what's happening over here. Just looking at the U.S. context, I heard recently, the U.S. is the number 4 highest population of UPGs and UUPGs. A UUPG stands for an unengaged, unreached people group where they have not heard the gospel. A UPG is defined as a population that has a people group that has 2% or less evangelical. So we can steward this, what we're calling the Great Commission pipeline, is we have just Great Commission obedience in our case, the U.S. or North America, laboring towards movement that we can mobilize laborers that have been confirmed, their character has been confirmed, the calling has been confirmed as evidenced by sacrifice, but their competency as kingdom laborers, able to make disciples, start churches that multiply, they can jump right into the work here in the field hub and learn in the heart of a movement in partnership with nationals, and be mobilized either to a different part of the country or even mobilized to another country to launch another team, coalition, and hub among the locals there. So another advantage we're seeing is that these frontline missionaries that often come home off the field, they're able to come back and step into the work in these respective hub cities in North America. Another thing we're seeing is the use of short-term missions teams as being strategic in coordination with the missionaries here and the nationals here. We can use that as a strategy for advancing the gospel where it's strategic here with evangelism, with trainings for the nationals, with coaching, with pastoral training. We can just really leverage these short-term teams that have been equipped to go help provide what's needed here to advance. But also as they're coming back from these short-term team trips, they can step into the work here and not just wait to go on the next short-term trip, but jump into the work within their city. And we know of some trip leaders that are doing a first touch before as a preparatory. They're doing a second touch on the trip, and when they come home, the team is leading a third touch to help form these teams and coalitions in their cities. So just exciting what we're seeing God doing over the last few years of really just streamlining the process. And I think training on both sides of the pond is really helpful and catalytic. And we want to see the gospel reach everyone, everywhere, and to mind the gaps of for those who have not heard, to be able to hear, and to just steward this work for God's glory until there's no place left.